Today I have Colonel Michael Hare here, who owns this GB-1 game bird, and we're going to talk about his illustrious military career and his current airplane on today's episode. When did you enlist?
1975. I went to basic training as a airman basic.
What was your first assignment after getting your wings?
A-10 to Bentwaters.
Oh wow, A-10, that's pretty incredible.
Single seat fighter, flying in Europe. I thought it was just the coolest thing in the world.
So after the A-10, what did you do in the military?
I went from the A-10 at Bentwaters to the OV-10 Bronco at George Air Force Base in California, and I walked in the door there. I was a captain. I'd been an instructor pilot in the A-10, and I had a room full of second lieutenants who were hungry, that wanted to learn how to fly fighters and be better tactical aviators in the Bronco, which then was going to apply to their follow-on assignment. So I had a great time in a leadership position at George.
I'm sure your military career continued after that. What happened next?
Well, believe it or not, the next thing that happened was I left the Air Force. I got out.
Oh.
And I joined the airlines. I got a job at Northwest Airlines. When I finished training on the 727, I joined the Air National Guard. And started flying the A-37, also forward air control, light attack. And then before I knew it, Saddam had invaded Kuwait. I got called back to active duty as a forward air controller for Desert Storm, but the unit that I was assigned to was a guard unit, a roundout brigade for the 24th ID up at Fort Stewart, and they wanted us to go to California to train up at the National Training Center before they would send us to the desert. So we spent the entire war in California.
Oh.
fighting the war of the National Training Center. So it was a good experience. I thought that I had reached the end of the line for me. And I told my boss, I said, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been fun. And he says, well, wait a second. I lived in Illinois. I was in the Illinois Guard. He says, why don't you go to Duluth? Because they have F-16s. And I was working for Northwest Airlines based in Minneapolis, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll give them a call. So I called up to Duluth, interviewed up there, and they gave me a job. So I was in an F-16 unit again at Duluth, and then just the way things happened, 9/11 occurred, and my two-star general that I worked for, my adjutant general, he said, why don't you go down to NORAD and help NORAD build up their air defense post 9/11? I said, okay. So I went down there and worked at NORAD for 120 days, just helping with the post 9/11 kind of all the work that had to be done. I went down for 120 days and stayed for 7 years.
After that 7-year tenure at NORAD, did that complete your military career?
It did. I retired in 2010 as a very, very fortunate to retire as a full colonel with from the Air Force. At the time, I was Air Force Reserve when I retired. So
that's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But I bet you didn't stop working at that point in time.
So it's funny, while I was gone on that 7-year military break, my Northwest airline job that I left, they went through bankruptcy and they merged with Delta Airlines.
Yeah.
So I left as a Northwest pilot and I retired I became a Delta pilot in the interim.
What all did you fly at Delta and Northwest?
So I started out on the 727 back seat, flipping switches, being the wrench. Co-pilot on the 727. I was an instructor for a period of time. I flew the 757 for Northwest, and then I went from there to the back seat of the Whale, 747. I flipped switches on the Whale for 6 years, and then when I came back to Delta after my military time, I went right to what we called the ER category, which was 757-76. We flew both airplanes. I did that for 6 years, and then my last job I checked out as a captain on the A320.
Oh, wow. Really awesome stuff.
Yeah.
What about GA flying, and how did we get here in front of this game bird today?
Wow. The game bird, it's almost one of those stories where me and a couple buddies were sitting around at the end of a long day having a refreshing adult beverage. There's a blank napkin on the bar and we start writing, and somebody saw this on the trade a plane and we came up with this idea, well, we could buy this airplane. And we bought the Game Bird, and it was like, holy cow, now we got this airplane, now what are we going to do with it? So there was some training involved, getting up to speed, learning how to fly it, and it's been a dream. It's been an absolute dream. So
I'd say this is the pinnacle of GA flight, isn't it?
there's a couple, you try to briefly describe an airplane like this, and I tell people, yeah, it's a monster, it's a beast, it's all these things, but when we get to fly later on, I think your eyes are going to get real big. When the throttle comes up and you climb out at VY and you see the earth fall away from you, it's like, wow, this is a magnificent airplane. It's honest, but it's very demanding, very demanding.
Well, I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm looking forward to you really working me today.
Yeah, I think you're going to have fun. I'll bet a big number that you're going to have fun today.
It's probably one of my best days ever in an airplane. I've had a lot of good days.
I hope so. I hope so.
Looks like the cameras are both holding up pretty good outside.
Yeah, I think we're in great shape.
Yeah, I love that. This feels way different than in my champ. We're going to go down and check the waves real quick here and make sure that there's no enemy submarines approaching our coastline.
Oh, without a doubt.
It's a pretty impressive performance. Let's talk about climb out, just initial climb out on takeoff. Where are we at?
Yeah. So if you go in the book for today, what we had is with the load, which in my mind is a pretty heavy load, extra fuel, somebody in the front seat, we were getting 2,400 foot per minute rate of climb. And then for me, by myself, training days, I'm closer to 3,000 feet per minute rate of climb. And when it comes off the ground, I mean, it just, I think you said it felt like a rocket ship. To me, it looks like the earth is falling away from you. It's so impressive.
It's probably the best non-jet performance I've ever personally experienced. It's really impressive. It's quite the machine you have here.
It is indeed.